The presidential election in America enters the last full week of the campaign, but the presidential news has been slightly pushed off the agenda by the storm. New York Stock Exchange has closed, and President Obama has been telling Americans to batten down the hatches. With me to talk about the last bit of the campaign is Christopher Lockwood, the United States editor. Chris, so the storm is coming, but the candidates have gone inland to campaign in swing states.
Yes, indeed. That's the funny thing about this storm, if one can use that word about something which may cost lives. I sincerely hope not, of course. It's not actually going to make that much of a difference to the campaign. It will, in fact, sharpen it in a way. Everyone is moving away from where they might have been to Ohio, in particular. That's the state which is the most important of the swing states in this election now, probably the one where the election will be decided, and that's where Romney's gone instead of Virginia. I suppose it poses more of a problem for the president than for his challenger Mitt Romney. The president now has to respond to the storm, so he will have less time to spend on the campaign trail, more time to spend dealing with one of the greatest emergencies America's seen in recent years.
So, Chris, we all keep our fingers crossed that this storm isn't going to be too bad and there won't be people killed. But if it does turn out to be a really bad one, how could that impact the campaign?
Well, it's really then high risk, high reward for the president, I would say. If he is seen to be dealing with a national crisis in an exemplary fashion, even at the extent of doing his campaigning, that will be a good thing for him. It will contrast very well with how George W. Bush floundered over the response to Hurricane Katrina that devastated New Orleans some years ago. If, on the other hand, he's seen to be fumbling the federal response, I don't think that will happen, by the way, because he's very well prepared for that possibility, then clearly that would count against him. So if it does turn out, God forbid, to be a catastrophe of Katrina-like proportions, there is the possibility for the president to shine a bit, to deal well with the national emergency.
Chris, just to go back to Ohio, which you mentioned earlier, it looks like being the swingiest of swing states in this election. You were there recently looking at the candidates' ground games. What did you find?
Well, in a nutshell, you could say two things. One, the Obama machine has a better ground game, much better organised, far more offices. Two, the intensity of feeling among Republicans is higher. They are absolutely determined to get Obama out. They really, really hate the guy. On the Democrat side, there's less enthusiasm than there was last time. Whether this is enough to close a gap that last time was about 5 percentage points, well, we'll wait and see. And there's another interesting thing happening in Ohio. There's a battle between two propositions, really. One is that President Obama is closing down the coal industry, on which Ohio is very dependent. That's kind of true. The Republicans call it a war on coal. It's a little tough, but essentially the administration has put tougher environmental restrictions on coal, so it is having that effect. But on the other hand, the president saved the car industry, or at least he claims to have done so, and many people in Ohio, about 850,000 people in Ohio, depend on the car industry for their jobs. Detroit, the centre of the car industry, just over the border in Michigan. So which will count more, cars or coal? We don't know.
Chris, one bit of news that I guess had the potential to move the race was the GDP numbers that came out on Friday. In the end, they were neither so brilliant nor so terrible that they seem to have had a huge impact on either campaign.
I think they will definitely have helped the president. They had a 2 in it. It was 2.0 rather than all the 1 point somethings that we've seen for previous quarters, just in the same way that an unemployment number, which we got a couple of weeks ago, that had a 7 in it rather than an 8 in it, was very good news for the president. Clearly, the economy has been recovering throughout this year. It's still very slow, but the worry for the president was, and this is the last big economic number, apart from one more jobs number, that we'll get before the election, and had that shown that the economy was slowing down again, I think that could have been damaging to him. In fact, we see a very minor acceleration in the pace of the recovery. Nothing to write home about, but definitely nothing bad. So to that extent, a plus rather than an undoubted minus for the president should help him.
Right, Chris, thank you very much.
Thank you.